everybody. I am double checking that my audio is in since we all know Keyanna has a history of not being heard on YouTube. But hi there, theater makers. It seems like we are good to go. Um, just drop in the chat if I am lying to everyone and you can't hear me. Uh, welcome to our relaxed chat. Hello.
Good morning.
If you don't know who the lovely person beside me is, this is the producer, Hannah Williams. Thank you for all that you do, friend, and for hopping on last minute to have a chit chat with me.
Anytime. You're so welcome. I'm in the office, as you can tell. I was just telling Key that I was packing my stuff to leave this morning and I didn't bring my external camera or any of my microphones. I was like, oh, I'm just listening in on my calls today. I don't need to bring everything with me. I'm not going to be doing anything important. But here we are, and in an event that will surely make me angry when I try to edit this for podcasting purposes later. Oh,
yes.
your audio's a little poppy we're getting in the chat. But your hair's amazing. That's the spirit.
So I'll just mime the whole time. It's totally fine.
Okay.
I am gonna double check that my computer is using my microphone and not my internal microphone. Does that make sense? Anyways, Hannah Williams, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I believe I've been up to the same as most people, at least the two of us and those we've been speaking to, in terms of I've been involved in that wonderful production of Othello that the live performance is just closed, but you can still catch in video on demand for the next little bit going on. There's more information on the Women's Theater Festival website. I was an associate producer on that production, so I was less in the creative side, just hearing about it through T&D episodes and just meetings. But my part of that now is wrapping up fun contracts and paying and all that stuff there. Other than that, I just started rehearsals for Midsummer Night's Dream because apparently I am all in the Shakespeare right now, despite my internal conflicts of should we do Shakespeare anymore or not. Apparently it's still happening because it's free and your girl loves digging into some poetry. I can't help it. Keyanna, what are you up to?
So here's the big reveal, everybody. I got my second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine yesterday, and then almost like clockwork, when my body hit about 7 hours in, it was like, oh, we're not doing things anymore.
Yeah. That's the general, like, that's what I hear from most people about it, for sure. I got mine last week, the day before I was scheduled to start rehearsals, and I finished cutting the script that next day in my post-vaccine brain. And I totally cut out the passage where Puck and Oberon are talking and Oberon like puts the flower juice on Demetrius. I just cut it out. And we got through the read through and we hit that part of the script. And in my mind, like, Demetrius still got the flower juice. Like, I saw it happen. I was listening. I was like, yep, this is right. This is good. Into it. And then we got finished with the read through and my Oberon was like, so is Demetrius not getting magicked anymore? Like, what's going on? And I was so confused. I was like, what are you talking about? Of course he is. It took me until like very late Saturday night, and this was Thursday that happened, for me to finally look at the script and go, oh, yeah, vaccine Hannah definitely cut that part out. It's back now.
I mean, I'm glad that it made it back. But
yes.
Like, it's a different experience and this is with people telling me what to expect, and it's still a different experience than what I anticipated. So I just want to, like, full disclosure with everybody, Keyanna is streaming from bed. Like, here we are. Welcome to my bed.
When
Hi.
we say relaxed chat, we very much do mean it. Um,
Yeah.
I have this lipstick on and that's it, and that's because my makeup bag was in the car and he said, "Hey, hop on the call," and I was like, "Yeah, this is a pretty whatever we want." We've got some happy people in the chat. Laura Griffin says Othello was the first time I saw a stage version of the play.
We were your first Othello? That's so sweet.
Which is beautiful because I love a good fully realized virtual production. And there's merit to all sorts of virtual theater that exists, as is often the point of this show. Like you can do a Zoom reading and it's like got a lot of artistic value, and then you can go more toward Othello and fully realized live virtual, and then you can move to I'm moving like linearly. It's not linear. There's like all of these different points your virtual creation can exist. It's like you can do a fully pre-recorded filmed virtual with different overlays, and that also counts. There there are no limits in the virtual theater scape, and it's exciting. So
Oh,
yay first stage version of Othello, and it was beautifully staged by wondrous Jamaica and Keyanna's technical capabilities and designing some of that, adding into the overall vision, and we love it. You can still watch it.
yes. VOD, we will, after we're done with the live, I'll drop that link in the description. So just scroll, 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 and it'll be down there. Um, bro, Othello was hard. I just want to say it. Great time, but like, it's a 3 hour show.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
And like, ooh. And we recently had a blog published where like we outlined, okay, well, here were some of the components at play, and here are some of the like thinking behind how we technically designed the show. All that is well and good. It's still a 3 hour show.
Still, in a 3 hour, very poetically, intellectually, textually intense show, and like content difficult show for a range of reasons. So a massive congratulations to everyone involved, and an even more massive take care of yourselves this week as we're in the postmortem for that production. And for those of you that weren't involved, if you haven't viewed it and you would like to, yes, you still can. Take care of yourselves as you're viewing, and after you view, there are some things in place that our dramaturg and intimacy coordinator assist in building. Yeah, there's a lot of care to show yourself around any production of Othello, really, but especially this one. Um, yeah,
I
so as
will be.
we're
Oh,
yeah,
what?
whoa,
What?
I'm gonna let you go.
I was just gonna say, as someone who like was actively working on the show, who knew the performance in and out, right? Like I still watch the breathing exercise with Monet during intermission. Like I know everything that's gonna happen. I
Hmm.
designed everything that's gonna happen, and I'm still just like, actually, Monet, could you come breathe with me? Thank you so much.
Yeah, we must never discount the importance of breath work. Like just as a blanket statement, let's remember that. But as we take care of ourselves today, Keyanna, what would you like to speak on or talk about? We can live in Othello post musings for a while, but we have some lovely people in the chat and we just have each other's company. So in this relaxed bed day chat, what would you like to talk about? Or those of you watching, do you have any questions for us related to Othello or the festival or our general existences?
So I'm gonna get a little nerdy on you real quick. I just want to share that. Okay, here it goes. So I went to this workshop, and it was for the theater company. Zoom Theater was holding a workshop about like, here's what we know now. And when I tell you, technology is a wild, wild thing. So, and like, it makes sense when you say it out loud. It just never occurred to me. What they've been doing is downloading the remote control software on their actors' computers, and then their technicians are the ones who like go in and like fix everything for them. So making sure you have the right camera, and making sure like you're turning your camera on and off at the appropriate times. So like me as the technician would be sitting probably in my bed because I'm not on camera, and just like pretending to be the owner of Othello's camera, and like changing their microphones because they would use multiple microphones, or changing different. And I was like, bro, what? But it's also like, depending on which software you're using, it can be like $60 per computer to do that. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh.
That's intense stuff. I'm not gonna lie.
So I was just, it broke my brain a little bit to think, oh yeah, people have been using remote control on other folks' computers. Like IT does that all the time.
Right. I thought about doing, well, no, backtrack. There was a production I did in the fall where I was like, oh, I can do these things for the actors, but not through a remote control, just in terms of me owning the Zoom calls. That is, technology amazes me. And there are seemingly no limits in the virtual theater potential of technology, or live theater as well, I suppose. But it's especially present in virtual theater because when you don't have that physicality to lean into, you have to find other ways to dig, and the tech aspects tend to, what I've seen tend to be where what gets boosted. Which is just exciting. That's very exciting. I don't know how it works fully, but I'm not in tech, so I might just hear about it and use it, but I'm not figure it out for myself.
Just
We
ask
do have
somebody.
not a question in the chat, but an enthusiastic statement or exclamation. I want to know more about Keyanna's hair. Which I agree, because yes, Keyanna called me 2 days ago and her hair was like this. I was like, your hair. And she was like, yeah. And that was about all that was said. So anytime pink hair is involved, I do need details, as pink is my brand.
It is. It's very much your brand. I feel like I'm stepping on your aesthetic a little bit.
It's okay. It's all right.
Okay, so this is actually a part of a very long tradition where, if like, this started in college for me, where if I am working on a show that requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, I usually make some sort of like big physical change to myself once it's over. Which is how I got majority of my tattoos. Is because like I'm like, oh, thank God that show's over. I'm gonna go get a tattoo. And then I all same thing for when I went blonde. And this go around, I said, I've never done an unnatural hair color. Like, I just haven't done that. And my best friend, shout out to Michelle if she's watching. Hi, friend. Um, she is obsessed with dyeing my hair just because, like, of how well it takes to color and to bleach. And, like, apparently it's a whole thing that she fangirls over. So she's like, let me dye your hair. I was like, no, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. And then finally one day I was like, I got my tax return. Fuck it. And like same day. So I got my tax return in the morning. By the afternoon, we had all the bleach and hair dye and everything that we needed. And by 1 a.m., like, so 24 hours. So by 1 a.m., I was blonde. And then there's some like deep, so it like changes. It's like an ombre type of thing where it's bright pink and then it goes down to darker pink. And of course, all of this, if Mickey Marvel's watching, hey friend, all this stems out of my obsession with Lore Olympus, whose main protagonist is also pink. So there's that. So now I'm ready for some flower crowns and some white dresses so that I can cosplay as my favorite comic character.
I love that. I love using like the physical expression like in a job related way because I feel like usually people do those types of physical changes. It's like breakup related, that, or at least that's what you hear about it most stereotypically. So it's very interesting and fun and more meaningful. I think that you're like, this is my career and this is my marker of this thing in my career. It also just says some nice stuff about how personal art is. Like even if you try to separate that from your human self, you can't, just as is the nature of art. That's really nice. I did not know that about you, and I love that is the reason for these big decisions.
It like gives me something to look forward to because there is a lot of like separation anxiety people can feel once a show has ended because you've spent the last 2-3 months with these people and all of a sudden you're not anymore. So like in a way it is like that breakup type of thing. But yeah, it just kind of gives me something like, okay, well, I can't hang out with Nubia every day anymore. So I guess I'll dye my hair pink. And here we are. But yeah, so that's a story I don't share, I think, a whole bunch. But yeah, that's definitely like how I end my big shows is by doing something wacky. Do you have any like post show rituals?
No. Hannah Williams is very bad at goodbyes and bad at endings and closures. Hannah is a fan of an Irish goodbye. Hannah is a fan of not dealing with endings at all. So when shows typically end, I don't let it register very much to me. Every so often it does. Yeah, oops. But more often I'm just like, great, what's next? Let's keep pushing, keep going. I don't know all the specifics of why and what's into that. I do need to work on my reflection time and investment in that way because it just isn't where my energy goes. I don't know. That's a bad answer for you there.
But it's an honest answer, so I'll take it.
I don't like goodbyes. I don't like endings. I don't like closing those pathways and doors. I'm just a fan of disappearing, and you'll see me at some point again, probably, maybe.
Hannah Williams, how do you feel about cast parties?
I mean, I enjoy cast parties. I do. But I don't enjoy cast parties and we're all gonna sit around and like cry and be mushy and hug each other and say, oh, I'm never gonna see you again type of way. I enjoy cast parties. I enjoy celebrating, like, yay, we did this thing. We're all gonna drink about it. And then I'm gonna go home early. Unless there's a guy there I'm trying to flirt with, which hasn't happened in years. So I just haven't had a cast party in years. Well, no, that was still 2 years ago. So yes, in years. But yeah, I guess, yeah, my last cast party was 2 years ago. But other than that, it's been like us talking about having a cast party and then it's never happened.
Also, cast parties, at least for the last year and a half, would have been exactly how the performance is, right? Like,
right.
You
Never
rehearse in a Zoom
community time.
call, you perform in a Zoom call, you cast party in a Zoom call. Mm.
Like I love that time to commune with each other and have that. I don't like that high school yearbook feel that happens sometimes, you know. And that my resentment for it probably comes from high school with all of these people that I was just like, yeah, about wanting to like engage at the end of the year, be like, oh, I'm gonna miss you so much. And I'm like, we spoke twice in the past 4 years. Like, you will not miss me. What is this? Where is this energy coming from other than the fear of something ending, you know? So I guess in that way, that's how I justify that I'm good at it.
I will say, while I was at home, I did flip through all of my old yearbooks. And I still recognized at least like 90% of the people that signed my yearbook.
Yeah. It's nice to look at them now, but it is kind of wacky for some people. But the emotional investment of teenagers, or not even teenagers, just those younger than 18, truly cannot be discounted. Like, what is the meaning of these massive paragraphs written to each other at like 11, other than we didn't have blocks in our brains to make us think we shouldn't care that deeply about each other and shouldn't be that invested in our personal relationships. We weren't jaded at 11 or 14, like, which is something I'm also thinking. And I apologize, Keyanna, but as I'm digging into this Taylor Swift drama and her re-recordings she's doing of her albums from when she was a teenager, and it's just like, wow, like the connection to the emotion is so different through through the through the years there. And yeah, I don't know.
This is
I don't,
fascinating to me because one, I did not know that this was happening.
because you
Two,
don't
I
hear about Taylor Swift, Kiana.
I only am a fan of early Taylor Swift. I am not a fan of like recent Taylor Swift. So to think that like she's redoing them, I'm very interested to hear what these new tracks are going to sound like.
The same. Well, not exactly the same, but like her goal in doing it is to re-record them, like almost exactly. Like that's her whole point in doing it. She's not trying to redo them. I mean, she is, but not in a changing them type of way. But Fearless was the first one that released, so you might be into it if you like early early Taylor Swift. But yeah, it's just fascinating to listen to her at 31, I think she is now, sing these things she wrote when she was 17. And it's like, whew. Um,
Teardrops on My Guitar still gets to me. I'm going to say it. Like there's not a lot of songs that affect me that way. Teardrops on My Guitar. Drew looks at me.
can't he tell that I can't breathe?
Ah.
Teardrops never was the one that got me. Teardrops isn't on my list, but I respect that. I respect
Wow.
that.
Wow. Okay.
Johanna's watching, but she hasn't said anything about Miss Swift yet. I am surprised. she might soon.
She might be away from her keyboard. That's okay.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, that's also watching drama that's happening with the current Disney teens or those young TikTokers or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you do connect to your emotions differently. And that could just be me being old and jaded and also not performing anymore. Because it takes me a lot longer to get really in that emotional place, than it used to.
Fascinating.
Isn't it? What is this? What kind of relaxed chat is this? This doesn't feel relaxed to me. I'm getting anxious. Oh,
No,
Joanna says I love T Swift. Yes, you do, Joanna.
we got him.
Ugh.
Okay, all right. So we won't talk about the disconnect of feelings as a performer then. We'll just keep
just Hannah in general's disconnect from her feelings at this point.
No.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Anyway, what else do we want to talk about today?
Stage managing is hard. Just tossing that out there.
Sure.
I'm stage managing during Othello wrap up. I'm stage managing 2 shows right now, and I'm just like,
Ma'am.
wow. But friend of the show, SMJ, is the writer of one of the shows that I'm doing. And love them. That's all.
SMJ would do most anything for SMJ. I remember when you told me you had this exciting opportunity to be working with them again. I love that for you because they write really cool stuff and they do cool, good work, and they are just so knowledgeable and artistically full as a human, and I can't wait until we get them back on the show. Those are my thoughts. Johanna is popping back with her T-Swift in the chat saying, which is better, Folklore or Evermore? Trick question, they both are. I like Folklore a little more.
Are these albums?
Evermore. They are. These are the last 2 not re-recorded T-Swift albums. I think I like Folklore a little bit more than Evermore. I think. I feel like they're just one big album though. They're not, but like they were clearly made to go together, you know? Not like an afterthought kind of sequel. She says it was. I don't believe it. I don't believe that, Miss Swift. But yes, yay SMJ. Yay stage managing.
Are you gonna tweet at T Swift about her lies to the public?
I don't think so. I don't think she'd see it.
I didn't know like what type of level we were at with like no, these were clearly supposed to go together. Why are you lying to us?
She'd be like, why are you talking about that? That was 4 albums ago as far as I'm concerned. Girl moves fast.
You know what? Say what you want. She is prolific.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
And that's Johanna says the lyric work on Evermore is so high level. That is true. I would say both of those have overall her strongest lyrics. She has some good 1s or 2s on all the rest of the albums, but as like a unit, those are because she wrote them sitting alone during quarantine, and you can tell these are the lyrics of someone who is fully able to dig into the poetry of their mind uninhibited, which is really cool to listen to there. We should talk about something other than Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift? Okay, before we move off of pop music stars, I feel that same way about the Solitude album by Tori Kelly. Because it was like, it's a very short album. I think there's maybe 6, maybe 7 songs on it, but like they slap. So good.
I love that.
And she shared some of the background stories behind them, and like the fact that Take Me Home is literally about like how much anxiety she gets from being in quarantine, so she didn't want to go home. So good. Just anyways, Tori Kelly is my hero. If you ever see this, I love you.
You should tweet at Tori Kelly.
I should tweet at Tori Kelly.
Why not? Let's all tweet it.
Pop stars.
Stars today. Are there any other questions those watching in the chat want to throw out? Keyanna, do you have any questions for me?
So I really want to hear you talk more about your design concept for this Midsummer production. Because every time you bring up something for this show, I'm like, what chaos is this show going to be?
Yeah. That is my only concept at the moment. Chaos is my only current midsummer concept for this production. It's with a theater by where I live, and they're an outdoor theater, so they're doing things in person or trying to coming up. They have different protocols in place for actors and audience safety, and they're trying to be really, really on masks and distancing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be like into in-person things. So I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. Let's roll along with it. I worked with them last year, and I was there's the phone. I was on to do a show that was supposed to run like May, June last year, which obviously wasn't going to happen, but I didn't, they kind of, not an option. The office is closed from 10:30 to 12:30, and that is its busiest time every single Tuesday. It's ridiculous. I'm like, did you all read the sign wrong? So I was supposed to do a show May, June with them last year, and we had callbacks right before or right after, like around when SETC was in like February, March-ish last year. So I had not callbacks, sorry, original auditions, and I had people audition, and I made my callback list, and then everything shut down. So I didn't contact anybody, and then I got an email like a few weeks, a month later from the executive director that was like, hey, this is still kind of going on. This show's supposed to open in like 2 months. How does your cast feel? And I was like, my cast? So I emailed the people I had called back, and it was like, hey, thanks so much. I'd like you for this role. Don't know what we're doing or how we're doing it, but if you're interested, like, let's make something together. And we ended up making essentially a feature film. Like I would not call it virtual theater. Like it was a production. Like it was a movie that we ended up making of this show. And it was really cool to explore working on Zoom and outside as we were all trying to figure out what we're doing, and we were able to stage it so everyone was distanced, and we were filming like and making it look like people were closer, or at least positioning them so it wasn't weird that everyone was kind of distance away from each other. Anyway, that's all to say that we get to this year, and they pretty much took last season and like plopped it onto this season, with the exception of the May June show, because that's happened. And then I think there's one other they changed. So there was an open slot there, and they sent out their season announcement. And they were like, oh, we're looking like these 2 show directors are TBD. So I just responded and I was like, I'm available in that time. And they were like, great, you can take it. But no one asked for a concept at all. I did just get an email like 3 days ago from the production manager. It was like, what's your concept for this show? And I was like, it's been 2 months. Which is fine because I don't want to tell anybody. So anyway, back to your question, Keyanna, why we're talking about this. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And they said, great, you can have it. And I thought, what is Midsummer though? Because Midsummer is not a play I particularly like or enjoy or find funny at all. I saw the Emma Rice production at the Globe that was kind of artsy, edgy, rule breaky, very, very musical, very colorful. And I was like, oh, this I respond to a little bit more for whatever reason. And also approaching it from a place of knowing like I, as a Hannah, typically do things that are kind of pretty soft and elegant, delicate, flowery storytelling. Because that's just a very strong side of me, is this very feminine, gracious type persona. So that comes through in a lot of my work. Like I did R&J in the fall, and it was very like pretty, So for this, I was like, this can't be that. I don't want this to be how I work for this show. And the only thing coming to my mind at first was like Hopi powder and like colors in the air, like flying at each other. Because I'm thinking, okay, well, if we can't get close to each other necessarily, how do we still show the magic, and how do we portray a lot of these very physical very impulsive, very visceral relationships that come out of it, both naturally and through the magic of it. So the first thing was like colored powders in the air that came to mind, and that went into like different paints that could happen, and just other ways to make messes, essentially. Just how do we explore and show this physicality without actually touching each other. So that was the first thing, and that has evolved into a chaotic 70s rock stage jungle gym of a of a concept that is very no rules. At least that's where we're trying to get with it. It's very, I don't care about the language. It's very chaos. It's very say what you want, do what you want. If we want to change the pronouns, let's change the pronouns. If we want to all be on each other, we'll be on each other. We're looking at like different climbing walls to implement. We're like wanting to cover the stairs with a slide. We've got boxes for people to fall through. We're going to use the shit out of the trapdoor. We want like, I don't even know. The vision is just chaos. Like it's all very loosely flowing around, but all of it is in relation to finding the fluidity of the sexuality and the gender expression and the physicality that come through in Midsummer. Because there are two ways you can approach Midsummer, because it's written in a very surprise, like patriarchal, sort of colonized white theater way, you know, big shocker because it's Shakespeare. So you can approach it that way, or you can take all of that and flip it all. So we're trying to approach in the flipping. I don't, specific words on vision are not there, because it's just chaos. Chaos is my only true goal here, I would say.
So the artist in me is so excited to see all of this happen and like see how absolutely wild you guys end up being on stage. The I don't even know if this is my stage manager brain or my Capricorn brain,
Right.
but like the first thought in my head was you have to put up signs in the audience that like the first 3 rows are probably going to get like color on them.
You know, that's a good point. That really is. I don't know how they're fully blocking off the audience. I need to check that to see how and if we can interact with the audience at all. But that's something we have to take into account. There's some different lighting effects we want to explore. We have to take into account. There are different like boxes we want to use, and I really want plexiglass somewhere so we can like paint on that and not actually touch each other, but be touching I don't know. I just want everything to be chaotic, and I want people to go there and be like, what was that? And this is just, I take a while to fully find my way into stuff when I'm working. I see a lot of things in pictures, so when I'm thinking about what this show is, I just see colors happening at me, and people climbing and falling from things and just all on top of each other. But as far as how I get there, I haven't fully worked that out because I need to be in the room with actors to really get there. So I'm just playing. But yeah, God bless my stage manager. She's the sweetest. But there are some precautions to take. We do have coverings for the stage, at least the lower level of the stage will be like covered, so we'll have to like rinse everything every night most likely.
I'm not even a part of this production team and I'm stressed about this.
It's fine.
But I also desperately want this moment of like your audience leaving with the mindset of, what in the world was that? And then you just cut to Hannah Williams maniacally laughing in the background.
It's just like, I don't know. I don't care. No, it's yeah, I want everybody to have a good time. Yes, Laura says, warn the audience, they might get pretty. And when we get into it, we'll try to maneuver it so it hopefully won't fall on them. But that is a good warning to put in place for sure. But I came up with my callback form for actors, like just getting a feel for if I'm visualizing this very physical, messy, half-dressed show, like what are these actors comfortable with? And the ones that ended up in the cast were, for the most part, the ones that said yes to everything, which wasn't not because they said yes to everything. That wasn't the deciding factor. But I was just like responding to people in callbacks. Then I looked at their form and I was like, oh, okay, great. And I remember talking to one of them in one of the callback nights, and he was like, the more I filled out the callback form, the more I wanted to do this. It was like, do you want to be naked, making out with everyone and covered in paint? Yes. I was like, okay. But my assistant director is driven insane by me talking like this, because he's like, why though? Why paint? What's happening? Why is it colorful, Hannah? What do you want? And I'm like, I haven't quite figured it out, but I see it happening.
Your poor AD.
We'll justify it. Poor AD. Yeah.
But why paint? Why not? I also feel very much like we're heading into opposite directions in our like directing projects, because you're going outdoors in person-y, and like my next project is an audio drama, so it's like all the visuals, people are going to be in the same space, and I'm like, no visuals, you'll only have voices. So
I have a project after this one too that's another outdoor thing, so that's interesting.
You're so outdoorsy. Look at you.
Apparently. I bought a lot of clothes over the weekend because I was like, what do I even wear outside? I don't go outside. I have a bunch of office clothes at this point. I was like, I can't wear heels. I can't rehearse this in heels. I can't walk through this choreography because my AD is my fight choreographer and I'm doing intimacy choreography for it. So like we have to tag team together for a lot of the scenes, because the fights and the intimate moments in Midsummer, at least how we're approaching it, are pretty much the same moments. Mainly the big lovers 4-way scene fight thing, like that's
painted maple.
A bunch of physical nonsense happening. But for us to get in there, like if I have to find some of this, I cannot be hanging out in heels and a pencil skirt. Like that's just not going to work. I need to be in my body to vocalize some of this to them, which is just how I like to work.
Depending on how thick the heel is, though, you could be okay.
I don't have thick heels. I got like points. Okay, we're not going outside in those.
So you can just be stabbing the ground the whole time. Yeah.
You asking me nonsense questions so I can talk in words that don't make sense. And now everyone is watching this is going to be like my AD and go, what? What is happening?
What is happening?
And who's to say? Laura Griffin says nature is lovely. Correct.
I mean, it's lovely from afar.
I think it is lovely. It's not lovely if I'm out in it, again, in a blazer and a skirt and heels trying to move around and respond to actors. But I could do that if I was going for a picnic, maybe. But I was like, I need to get more shoes. More active shoes and shorts.
What if the entirety of Midsummer took place at like a lakeside picnic?
That'd be cute.
Wouldn't that be cute?
That'd be cute. It'd be so wholesome. They did it 3 years ago, I believe, and it wasn't picnic, but it was very like a Southern gentleman in Appalachia kind of approach. Like they had these nice straw hats and their overalls or their suspenders and their nice like checkered shirts and like it looked very like nice and quaint, and we're in the mountains and it's southern. We're having a lovely time.
It's the accent for me. Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah. Anytime. Not really. But that's what it looks like looking at the pictures. And I'm like, that looks so nice. Like it just looks like a lovely time. Anyway, enough of
Um,
that.
but yeah, so like just touching on, because now my mind is in like audio drama world.
Hmm.
That mess is hard.
Audio drama? Or
Yeah.
correct.
Like,
Correct.
ooh.
But being in person is also hard. And virtual theater is hard. They're all different levels of hard, but
They're all hard. They all just are uniquely hard in their own ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting trying to re-mindset myself to work in person, even knowing precautions that are in place. It's weird. It's weird. And there are some things that are the same no matter how I'm working, which is just me sitting in a room going, who put me in charge? Do I have to be in charge? What am I doing here?
For me, it's when actors have questions.
Oof, look.
And then I'm like, Heifer, I don't know.
I'm like, don't ask me. I am not your character. I can't help you.
Which is why my go to phrase is, let's explore that together.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's a lovely phrase.
Because
I should try.
if I just say I don't know every single time, people are gonna start to think I'm incompetent.
I did disclaimer my actors for Midsummer first rehearsal. I was like, look, how I work is a lot of me working off of what you're bringing because I have some thoughts, but really I'm trying to shape all of this. So I responded to what you were doing in the callbacks. So I need you to keep doing that work and bringing that to the table. But even whether you do or don't, the first 2 weeks are going to be pretty awkward as we all get to kind of know each other and feel out our working styles, because I'm not going to know a lot of things yet, because for me to know, I have to have a sense of what's happening in the room. I can come in with some things, but there are going to be a lot of questions I don't know the answers to, and we're just all going to have to learn each other together.
Which does bring me to like one of my biggest pet peeves regarding like the dynamic between actors and directors. When actors expect me to do their character development for them.
I'm not doing that.
Like, yeah, well, I just like, what am I feeling here? I don't know. It's
And I
that
told him, I was like, if you do need that, like, let me know so I can know I need to look at Oberon more, or, you know, whoever it is. None of them have said anything to me, but I was like, this is, I found setting up how I work and what my expectations, intentions are. Coming in, expectations is weird to say. My only expectation is that we all show up doing our work as best we can, and we communicate if there's an issue either way, you know. That's my expectation. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to do character work. I don't act anymore.
and that's different than like table work where we are all sitting down together and we are discussing what are the dynamics at play, what is the context that we are operating inside of this world. Like, I love that component of it. I love talking about like, okay, well, you're saying these lines, what are
Right.
you anticipating your motivation is? Like, love that work. But because so much of like traditional theater was the director being like, no, you think this and feel this.
Yeah.
If I don't operate that way, I look like the crazy one now.
And I think more recent movements in not in all director trainings, but at least in conversations happening, do take that into account in different burn it down, taking the patriarchy out, directing type discussions and decolonization discussions. They're all very much in like, hey, this is how we were working because of these institutionalized systems. This isn't the approach we want to be using, and like trying to find better ways to bring that into everything. Because I also, like, I would not be doing anything well without hearing other voices around saying, hey, this is how I approach this. This is what I'm looking for. Because I also found that, like, working my first show, I was like, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to come in. And I was like, I just don't work that way. That isn't giving anything to me. And it doesn't give people the right to be human either. If it doesn't give anyone autonomy, it doesn't give anyone the right to like go have a sandwich before rehearsal if they're running late and like need food. Like, it doesn't allow anyone to have a conflict. Like, it just doesn't, there's no freedom to be a person. It's just 10 out of 12s, and that's not sustainable. Especially, I think, coming back to theater, live theater as we know it after the past year. Like, I think my job in the room is to shape the show and to to create an environment, or do my best to create an environment where people enjoy themselves. Like, we shouldn't come to theater and be punished. Crazy thoughts, but there they are.
Hot take by Hannah Williams.
Is it a take though? Is it really?
But is it though, or is it like a necessary shift in our perception of how we work?
But that's also how I'm approaching Midsummer. That's why so much of it is like, I don't know, whatever you want. That's why it is very chaotic and not clear at the moment, because I'm like, what do you want to do? What do we all want to do? We haven't been together in a physical stage space for a year. There are no limits on Midsummer. The text is not licensed, and there is literal magic in the show. So we can do whatever we want. Like, what do you want to do? We can change all of it. I don't care. Like,
is this Midsummer anymore? Because this feels like a brand new script. We're not sure.
It's still Midsummer.
Well, friend, we are actually at time.
Indeed, it seems we are.
We made it. We did it.
We did it.
We chatted for a whole hour.
Does this episode count? Who's to say? But we did it.
I'm so glad that we did have people in the live video chat, or else I would have just assumed this was all a part of my fever dream. So.
We are very grateful for Johanna and Laura for being here with us this morning. Laura says play should be playing. Very correct. Very correct.
Just in case anybody watching this, because like the two people we have in the chat already know this information. But for anybody else out there, hey guys, we have a copy page.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's a new blog post on it. It's lovely. Going back to Othello. It's all about that technical process, and you can read it, and then you can go, oh, that's where the brain is coming from today. At least for Keyanna, not for me, but knowing some of the scope of that work that went into it.
Yes. So Coffee Page has le blog, le merch, les shenanigans. I don't speak French. Can anybody tell? So yeah, so social media is down below, as well as we are going to we're going to drop the link to the Othello VOD so that you can see what we've been working on these last couple of months. I have pink hair.
You do.
Hannah loves Taylor Swift.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just summarizing things now.
Okay. What did we talk about today?
Just the highlights.
Hannah rambled about other projects. Didn't make any real points. Keyanna's doing an audio drama and stage managing 2 things.
Wow. Yep. Okay. And with that, everyone, Laura and Johanna. All right, everyone.
Allie is also here. There's a
Hi.
smiley face from an Allie Costa, friend of the show.
Ali Costa, hi. Remember when I was telling you, like, don't tell anybody about my pink hair? It's announced. We can talk about it now. Except don't tell anybody at Theater Unmasked, because I want there to be a big reveal on Friday. These are a lot of explicit instructions. I will DM you later. All right, everyone. This has been producer Hannah Williams with host Keyanna Alexander, reminding everyone, hi, friends. Theater's not dead. Bye-bye.